Stand in front of the Colosseum from the north, and it looks whole, towering, solid, almost defiant against the Roman skyline. Walk around to the south side, though, and the illusion breaks. A huge chunk of the outer ring simply isn't there anymore. You're staring straight into the guts of the building. Bare arches, exposed stairwells, a jagged edge where a wall used to be. Most visitors assume it's just old age catching up with an old building. It isn't. Every missing block has a specific reason for being gone, and the story of where it all went is stranger than plain decay. Why did one side survive intact while the other collapsed into rubble? That question is the whole mystery, and untangling it means walking through nearly 2,000 years of earthquakes, squatters, popes, and thieves. Building the impossible. To understand what was lost, picture the building whole. This wasn't just a stadium, it was a political statement carved in stone. Work started in 70 AD, and astonishingly, the whole thing was finished in about 8 years. Wagon after wagon rolled in, loaded with travertine, a pale limestone that once made the entire facade gleam so brightly it was said to hurt to look at in direct sun. Nothing like the gray skeleton we see now. Here's the part that surprises people. There's no mortar holding the outer walls together. None. The blocks were simply stacked, shaped so precisely they locked into place under their own weight, and stitched internally with iron clamps set into carved channels. Roughly 300 tons of iron went into that hidden framework, a detail that would matter enormously later. Inside, it was even more extravagant. Marble seating, statues in every arch, a retractable canvas roof shading up to 50,000 spectators from the heat. It was built to look eternal. It didn't stay that way. A city moves in. Once the southern wall came down, the Colosseum stopped being a monument and became real estate. People simply moved in. Wooden floors were nailed into the stone arches, splitting them into 2 or 3 livable stories. A cobbler might work downstairs while his family slept above him. These units were rented, inherited, bought, and sold. Entire wealthy families owned whole sections, the way someone today might own an apartment block. The arena floor was buried under soil and turned into a communal garden. The old walls that once framed gladiator fights now sheltered rows of vegetables from the wind. Chapels, stables, storage rooms, all tucked into what used to be triumphal entrances. For centuries, this was simply where people lived, the roar of the crowd replaced by hammering, livestock, and children on the stairs. None of this was gentle on the structure. Residents cut new doorways straight through ancient load-bearing walls, pried up marble for countertops, and packed rubble into gaps. By the 11th century, one powerful Roman clan had even walled up sections of the arena and turned it into a private fortress. When that family's power faded, the next rulers looked at the building and saw something simpler than a fortress or a monument: a very large, very convenient pile of building material. An official quarry. What happened next wasn't looting in the usual sense. It was licensed. Officials issued contracts letting contractors haul away a fixed number of blocks, often as payment for civic work. The rubble field where the wall had collapsed became known locally as a stone yard, with each piece cataloged before it left by ox cart. That travertine didn't disappear, it just changed address. Some of it reinforced the banks of the Tiber. A huge amount ended up inside Palazzo Venezia, whose walls are essentially the Colosseum's missing face, rebuilt somewhere else. The Barberini family took so much stone for their own palace that Romans coined a biting little saying about it: that whatever invading armies hadn't managed to destroy, that family had finished off. Fragments even traveled as far as St. Peter's Basilica and were quietly built into the Ponte Cestio, a bridge crossed today by tourists who have no idea what's under their feet. Burned for lime. Not everything was reused whole. Smaller, finer pieces, carved capitals, statues, decorative marble, met a rougher fate. They were fed into roadside kilns and burned down into quicklime for mortar. That's the uncomfortable reason the Colosseum's interior today shows mostly raw brick and concrete. Anything beautiful was either bricked into someone else's palace or reduced to paste for laying someone else's bricks. Chasing the ironstone wasn't the only prize. That buried iron skeleton, 300 tons of it, was worth just as much, maybe more. Metal hunters chiseled straight into the walls to reach the clamps, melting them down into knives, horseshoes, tools. This is the answer to something almost every visitor notices and misreads. The walls are covered in small, regular pits, and people often guess they're from cannon fire or war damage. They're not. Each one is a chisel mark from someone digging out a piece of iron centuries ago. And every clamp removed weakened the wall a little more, which is a big part of why the structure eventually gave way exactly where it did.
A pope steps in. By the 1700s, the place had gone completely feral. Trees growing out of the arches, wild plants covering entire walls. The interior more forest than ruin. It took Pope Benedict XIV to stop the slow bleeding. He declared the site sacred, dedicated to Christian martyrs believed to have died there. Historians today are skeptical that mass executions actually happened inside the Colosseum itself. But the label worked anyway. Crosses went up, and taking stone from a consecrated site suddenly meant risking damnation instead of just a fine. It's an odd twist. The building was saved not by anyone valuing its history, but by people fearing God. What was buried beneath? Centuries of dumped soil turned out to be protective. When 19th century excavators finally cleared the arena floor, they uncovered the hypogeum, a hidden network of tunnels, cages, and rope and pulley lifts that once launched animals and scenery up into the arena mid-show. Buried under debris for so long, it had survived in far better shape than anything exposed to open air. The real culprit. What's underneath the ground? For ages, the lopsided collapse looked like a mystery, even a punishment. One whole side standing proud, the other reduced to a low ruin, split almost in a straight line. The real explanation turned out to be geological, not divine. The amphitheater sits on the side of a drained lake, once owned by Nero. The north half rests on solid natural bedrock, a stable anchor. The south half sits on soft sediment from that old lake bed. Every time an earthquake hit Rome, the north side held firm, while the south side flexed and settled, generation after generation, slowly tearing the ring apart from the inside. A serious quake in the mid-400s cracked things badly. Then, in 1349, a massive earthquake hit central Italy. The southern wall, already sitting on soft ground, already stripped of much of its iron reinforcement, finally gave out. Thousands of tons of stone came down at once, and the horseshoe shape we recognize today was born in that moment. Still standing, barely modern. Engineers have added huge brick buttresses at the exposed ends of the wall, holding the remaining structure in place. Sensors now track the smallest shifts in the stone, and subway vibrations and city traffic are constant low-level threats being carefully monitored. The point of it all. The Colosseum's missing half wasn't lost in one dramatic instant. It was worn away by geology, disasters, and centuries of ordinary people needing shelter, stone, and metal. It wasn't destroyed so much as absorbed, block by block, into the churches, palaces, and bridges of the city around it. And maybe that's exactly why it still grips people today. A perfectly intact bowl might just look like an old stadium. Broken open, half consumed by the city it built, it tells a far better story than it ever could in one piece.